So today we are covering the nightshade family, known as the Solanaceae. The Solanaceae has a number of unifying characters, including flowers that contain 5 petals. These petals are fused for most, if not all, of their length. Most of the flowers in this family are tube-like, and what you'll note is a lot of the ones with ornamental value are grown for this reason. People really like the funny tube-shaped flowers. It's also a reflection of their pollinators. A lot of these are pollinated by hummingbirds or large moths, and they need their very long beaks and tongues to get into that flower to reach the nectar. The ovary, or the seed production part of the flower, is divided in half. So when you cut a tomato in half, you get this nice septum right here. That is also present in the ovary, which would be right here on the flower. Some plants, the ovary is hiding above the petals. In this family, it's below. They have leaves and stems that generally contain trichomes, which are hairs on plants, and they're incredibly toxic. The Solanaceae has some variety in its life cycle strategies. We have many species that are herbaceous. There are other species that form vines or other woody stems. Some are shrubs, even tree-like. Some of them are perennials, some of them are annuals. It really depends on the species, and it depends on the region. There are species that are native here that are perennials. There are species that are native here that are adapted to live one season and then die in the fall, and the seeds germinate in the spring. It's not always a matter of this plant would be a perennial if it didn't get so cold in the winter. Some plants are programmed to die right after they reproduce. These are known as monocarpic plants. I think one of our native nightshades does this. We have several native nightshades in Rhode Island. Most of these plants are pollinated by an insect. They rely on an insect for movement of pollen from one flower to another. Their fruit is a berry, usually. Sometimes a species will produce a dried capsule that breaks open or is eaten by something. The fruits are largely indehiscent, which means they don't split open. In some cases, the fruit falls to the ground and slowly rots away. The fruit contains a number of chemicals that prevent the germination of seeds, in most cases, until the goop of the fruit is cleared away, and this is present in a lot of plants so that dispersal can be achieved. Sometimes the fruit rots slowly enough where by the time the seed is exposed to the air and can germinate, the parent plant is long gone. Sometimes the fruit has the capacity to through the digestive tract of an animal in order to break down all the pulp and the goop around the seed and allow them to germinate. Many of these species you can take stem cuttings of and root them without really any problem. Fun tomato hack: you can actually, in the fall, save your tomatoes by taking several inch-long clippings from the stems, removing any flowers and fruits, sitting them in water, and they'll root. You can maintain the plants at a fairly small size during the winter, and then in the spring you can put them back outside. Most species in this group don't produce edible material. So this family is found on every continent except for Antarctica. You have the greatest number of species in South America and Australia. Now, most of the species that we see in agricultural use and culinary use are South American. Big biodiversity hotspots for this genus. You can also see that they're really absent from very high kind of tundra and dry desert regions. And so again, because they are dicots, they have 2 cotyledons, They're automatically angiosperms. They're automatically vascular plants because you can't be a dicot without being an angiosperm, and if you're an angiosperm, you're a vascular plant. There are 7 subfamilies in this family. The tomato subfamily, tobacco subfamily, and petunia subfamilies are the most important to us. They are in the order Solanaceae, which has a few familiar faces. The Convolvulaceae, which has sweet potato. It used to be a group within the Solanaceae, but is now its own family. And a few succulent families that aren't particularly important for the scope of these lectures. We cultivate a great number of Solanaceae. Solanaceae is not a huge family. It's fairly large. It's about the size of the Rosaceae. It's got a few thousand species. You have food crops that are very important to people. Tomato and potato, pepper, husk cherry or ground cherry, eggplant, tomatillo, a few other things that may be used as food. Tobacco is in this family. I don't recommend people smoke tobacco. It is laced with a lot of nasty chemicals because it is a nightshade. But from a cultural perspective, it, has nicotine, which is a stimulant, and it has been used by people for centuries. We have a number of ornamentals that are within this family. Petunia, trumpet vine, people grow a few other things. There's an ornamental version of pepper. These aren't edible. You'll get really sick if you eat them, but people really like the appearance of these fruits. Potato is widely cultivated, and there are a number of different cultivars, varieties of them. Same with eggplant, same with a lot of these things. We also have belladonna and datura. Belladonna is known as deadly nightshade, highly toxic, but there is some potential for its compounds to be used medically. Datura is the same. Again, all these are toxic, but people have managed to use some of these toxins for good. And so that's the Solanaceae.